We are living through a unique kind of weariness, a sense of being caught in a sterile administrative machine where every interaction feels transactional. In this procedural civilization, continuity and production matter more than people. The system functions efficiently, but it treats human beings as commodities, leaving the world feeling empty of actual meaning. We can understand this spiritual alienation through the lens of the backroom. It is a psychological environment where truth is obscured and identity is fragmented, a state where we are entirely severed from relational communion. This exhaustion is the result of an ancient spiritual condition. We have mistaken isolation for autonomy. Jesus' parable of the prodigal son in Luke 15 provides a map of this spiritual exile. The narrative follows two brothers, revealing the two distinct ways humanity gets trapped inside the backroom. Diagnosing these two paths of failure is the only way to finally exit the system. The younger son initiates the crisis by demanding his inheritance early. In the original Greek, he asks for the father's bios, the very resources that sustain life, because he perceives the household as a restrictive system. He falls for the wealth illusion. He believes that by securing material assets and absolute autonomy, he can create his own freedom. But the math fails. Outside of relationship, his independence turns into bondage. By severing this connection, he triggers a human dominion crisis. He was designed to steward creation, but without the father, his status is inverted, and he begins plummeting down the hierarchy of the world. This is the animalization of humanity. He ends up enslaved to a foreign master, feeding ceremonially unclean pigs and envying their food. He has devolved from a spiritual being into a creature driven purely by biological survival. His aggressive attempt to escape the system only plunged him into a darker, more degrading one. Meanwhile, the older son never leaves the estate. He stays home and works the fields, yet he is just as lost as his brother. He operates from a transactional identity. He views his father as an employer and himself as an employee, keeping a mental ledger of every rule he has kept and every reward he is owed. He lives in a paradise of abundance, yet he speaks like a slave working for a paycheck. This is the backroom of religion. He is geographically near the father, but relationally alienated inside a sterile environment of resentment and comparison. Both brothers share the same fundamental corruption. Neither one actually desires the father. They only desire what the father possesses. This shared perspective reduces a sacred relationship to a cold economic exchange. Both sons are blind to the reality of their own sonship, seeing only the transactions of the system. To defeat a transactional system, you need a disruption that comes from the outside. When the younger son finally returns, he is still thinking in transactions. He has a speech prepared to negotiate a contract to pay off his debt, but the father interrupts that plan before the boy can speak. He lifts his robes and sprints to intercept him. In this culture, a son who squandered his inheritance faced the kazaza, a ceremony of public shaming and permanent exile. The father runs to absorb that public humiliation himself, shielding his son from the village's judgment. By breaking rigid rules of honor, the father stops the transactional system, claiming his son. This sprint is the ultimate narrative embodiment of Hesed, God's steadfast, covenantal love that pursues the broken even when the covenant is shattered. Human honor culture always moves upward, demanding that the offender earn their way back. Hesed moves downward. The father bears the immense cost to bring the child home. The father restores the boy with a robe and ring before he can offer to work. Grace entirely absorbs the cost of justice. The father then leaves the celebration to go outside again to plead with the older son. This love pursues us whether we are lost in open rebellion or trapped in religious duty. This is a story about the restoration of perception, about finally seeing reality correctly. Everything changes when you realize God isn't a distant CEO keeping a ledger. He is a father running towards you on a dusty road. When that love corrects how we see the father, we can finally leave the backroom and take our seat at the feast of true communion.